The world is full of mystifying myths and legends, but the Navajo legend of the Skinwalker is one of the least understood of all. Indeed, it is perhaps the only mythological entity whose originators seem to be sworn to complete secrecy on the subject. Most Navajo are hesitant even to mention skinwalkers in passing conversation among themselves, and if an outsider were to ask about these mythical creatures, he would receive nothing but a startled and stone-faced denial. But the walls of silence that have been built up around the skinwalker are not airtight. A few obscure, anecdotal stories of shape-shifting entities playing pranks on the locals have found their way through the embargo. From them we have learned that the skinwalker of hushed Native American legend has a name in Navajo that is never supposed to be pronounced, or even mentioned. But if you feel brave enough to sound it out in your own mind, the Navajo name for these fearsome fiends is Nealdushme. According to Navajo folklore, the mere utterance of this name is dangerous because it could draw the unwanted attention of a skinwalker. As scary as these entities are, the myth maintains that skinwalkers were originally human beings. Specifically, they were medicine men or shamans who achieved superhuman awareness and mastery of their soul but turned toward the darker side of reality somewhere along their spiritual journey. For some unknown reason, these once holy men, after reaching enlightenment, simply chose to become evil.
In order for a skinwalker to obtain his extraordinary powers, he had to kill someone of his own bloodline. This previously holy man was then imbued with the sinister and unholy power of the skinwalker, which included the ability to shapeshift into just about any animal known to man and some that were completely unknown outside of legend. The most infamous of these animal forms is that of a highly unusual dog, wolf, and coyote-type creature that is usually much larger than its natural counterpart. These strange canines can run at incredible, unheard of speed, and they have even been witnessed running on two legs. As if these canine aberrations weren't frightening enough, the skinwalker is also connected to a more primal strain of the paranormal. Many have witnessed these shapeshifters morph into fairy, ape-like creatures. These entities can only be described as the classic Bigfoot or Sasquatch of North American folklore. And this is only the tip of the paranormal iceberg. As we proceed with the true story of the skinwalkers and the Utah ranch that became infamous for hosting them, we will break the conspiracy of silence that has long surrounded the skinwalker wide open.
Most stories have a clear beginning and a clear end, but the beginning of the great mystery that is Skinwalker Ranch and its immediate surroundings could be as old as the beginning of time. Native Americans have passed around legends about this haunted corner of Utah long before the ranch or any other permanent settlement existed. But the European settlers who came after them would note the high strangeness as well, and perhaps that's a good place for us to start the tale. Mormon leader Brigham Young was one of the earlier chroniclers of this Utah oddity. Young succeeded the founder of the Mormon faith, Joseph Smith, as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints after Smith's assassination. He then led his followers west to escape further religious persecution, establishing several Mormon colonies in what was then unsettled American territory. One of these colonies was located on what would one day become the grounds of Skinwalker Ranch. Brigham Young's first forays into this haunted stretch of land occurred in the early 1860s, when he sent a survey team to see if the Uinta Basin would provide habitable land for settlers. Their findings were disappointing. When they came back, they reported that the whole region was a vast contiguity of waste, which was completely valueless except for nomadic purposes, hunting grounds for Indians, and to hold the world together.
Despite the bleak early assessment, the Mormon March eventually did bring the Church of Latter-day Saints back to the Uinta Basin, with serious settlement effort occurring in the 1880s. Upon venturing into this formerly Native American land, the Mormons soon had many of their own skinwalker tales to tell. The secret mythology was secret no longer, and the tales then spread to miners who arrived around 1885 to harvest the Uinta Basin's many valuable mineral deposits. The surrounding area, named Uinta County, now boasts a population of some 25,000 people. It is thus still sparsely populated by most standards, but considering the vastness of the region, which those first Mormon explorers quantified as valueless except for nomadic purposes, the figure demonstrates slow but steady growth. Today the miners are all but gone, and cattle ranching has been the Uinta Basin's main industry since the early 1950s, which is also when the first documented unidentified flying object sightings began to take place over the area.
Junior Hicks, a science professor at the University of Utah, was the first to gather evidence of the paranormal happenings at Skinwalker Ranch and attempt to figure out what was going on. Hicks's investigation was inspired by a group of students who witnessed what could only be described as an unidentified flying object over Skinwalker Ranch in 1951. About 30 of his students claimed to have seen a classic cigar-shaped unidentified flying object, flying over them in broad daylight. They had no doubt that they had observed something highly extraordinary, and it turned out that they weren't the only ones. Hicks's subsequent digging uncovered hundreds of first-hand accounts of unidentified flying objects and other strange phenomena occurring in and around the ranch. He soon discovered that all of these tales shared one common feature, and that common feature was the Skinwalker. Hicks was one of the first outsiders to collect extensive information about these alleged paranormal entities from Native American tribes. The tribal members he spoke with referred to the whole region as the Path of the Skinwalker, and were steadfast in their refusal to go anywhere near it. Hicks eventually published his findings in a 1974 book entitled The Utah UFO Display, the first book in which skinwalkers were directly linked to the unidentified flying object phenomenon. Although Hicks mentioned the Skinwalker Ranch in this book, the ranch itself did not attract much attention until the early 1990s when the Sherman family bought the land and brought the phenomena that came with it to the world stage.